Okay, I'm in Power GEOPAK Select Series 4. You could do this in Select Series 2 or 3 as well. And the main thing that's important here is you want to make sure that you have access to all of your custom line styles. So make sure they're in your workspace along with all of your custom cell libraries or your cell libraries that relate to the Design and Computation Manager. So make sure your custom line styles are there, make sure your cells are there, and also make sure you have access to all of your levels. And so I'm actually doing this from the level library that has those levels stored. I want to proceed to GEOPAK Road and then go up to Design and Computation Manager. And I want to open the DDB file that we want to extract from. So I have an entry here, and I'll load that Design and Computation Manager DDB file. Then I want to go to File, and I want to do a Save As and select Microsoft Access Database. And we want to give this location and a name. So I'm just going to call this, I'll call it Test DDB Extraction. And then we'll select OK. Okay, with that complete, you can go ahead and close out of GEOPAK SS2 or SS4. And this gives us essentially this extracted Microsoft database file. Once the Microsoft database file is created, then we're going to run our utility here, the civil DDB utility.exe. And at the time of this recording, you can see that I'm on version 3 here. I'm going to go ahead and do item name plus description. This tends to give the most accurate, I think, depiction of what it is we want to show in Explorer. And so we want to select our MDB file. And so we'll navigate to that folder. We'll pick our MDB. It's going to go ahead and load the source data. This takes just a minute. On this particular example, is there's thousands of entries in here. And while this is loading, just one thing to mention, this is a kind of a shotgun approach. This is going to do everything essentially in the DDB file. If it's not set to default symbology, it will get created as a linear feature definition. And if there is a cell defined, it will get created as a point feature definition. It's easier to just do it this way and then delete what you don't want later in OpenRoads Designer than it is to try to pick and choose here. And so we kind of took this approach. It seems to be the most logical. Once it loads everything, you'll see the number of element templates it's going to create, the number of feature symbologies and feature definitions. Just select Export to XML files here. And it's going to create 3 XML files. And so you'll see those 3 files created. Now that those 3 files are created, let's go ahead and open up a new DGN library here. So I'm going to select to do that. So let's select here new file. And we'll go to our folder we want to put this in. And I'm going to use a 3D seed file here to do this. And we'll just call this My Features Test and make this a DGN lib. So we'll open that up. So the same rules apply here. Make sure that you have access to your levels, your cells, and your custom line styles before you do this importing. That's always a good idea. And then we're just going to come over here to our element templates. So we'll go to Home and then we'll go to Manage our element templates. And we're going to select File Import from XML. And we'll browse to our folder that we're at, and we're going to pick our element templates, ET here, and select OK. And this will bring in our element templates, and it will also sort them alphabetically. And so you will see essentially this is going to be a duplication of where we were at with the Design and Computation Manager. And so you'll see each of those entries in there very nicely. Then we'll come over to Explorer. And in Explorer, we're going to navigate down to our Symbologies. And make sure that you have the configuration variable set to be able to import. And just to show that to you, So you'll see underscore civil underscore standards underscore import export equal 1. So you need to make sure that is set in your workspace. And with that being set, then you can right click on Feature Symbologies and select Import. And we're going to this time pick our Feature Symbologies and select Open to that. And you'll see down at the bottom a status. Once it gets done importing, it'll say successfully imported, and it'll then list out the Feature Symbologies. So we'll give that just a minute. And so now if we navigate down to our Feature Symbologies category, you'll see the different categories there. And for example, we go down to linear, let's go down to roadway design, and we'll go down to pavement. And so you'll see the different entries here. If I right click on properties, you will see that we have the path then to our element template. And the reason I did item name plus description, the way that this DDB was set up is they were set up by pay item numbers, and so you could have just done description and it would have just said here edge of pavement, but I think that this kind of gives a little bit more of a distinguishment. And you would see that if I hadn't have done item name and description, then all three of these would have been the same entry, and that's not going to work. So something had to be different, and that's why I chose that process. So once the feature symbologies are imported, then you can right click on feature definitions, import those. So those are here. And then when we expand those down after they have processed, you will see the different categories there for our linear and for our point. And this is the only ones that it's going to create from the Design and Computation Manager. And the reason is, you might think, well, why don't we have, for example, our mesh feature definitions for template components? Those are not actually pointing to the Design and Computation Manager. For example, in SS4, if you have your template library running with, doing your corridors, those are pointing to element templates already, and so those can be imported directly with other videos showing how to do that I've created for workspace migration processes. So this is mainly just to show how to get my linear and my point feature definitions out of the DDB file and over to OpenRoads Designer Connect Edition. Thank you for your time.